So long.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of Thursday, January 6th. Please silence your cell phones, and if you'd like to speak on any items, please fill out a blue slip and bring to staff. I will call on Mr. Richard for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. We give you thanks for this staff, this board. We ask that you bless us. Work with us as we go through this.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Miss Kathy, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Angelon?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Barkey?
Here.
Mr. Burley?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Markentile? Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Stelling?
Here.
Mr. Tremonti?
Here.
And President Abshon?
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
As is with always, the first meeting of the year, we have the election of the new president. And I just want to take this opportunity to tell you guys thank you for all the support you've given me this year. It's been a wild ride, but we've had fun. I couldn't have done it without staff, administration. You guys are the backbone, and we appreciate you. So now, I would like to go to item 1A, election of the president of the police jury for 2022. I now open the floor for nominations.
Move to nominate Tony Stelly for president. I second that.
We have a nomination for Mr. Stelly.
Move the
Are there any
nomination
other
be
nominations?
closed.
All right, I have a motion to close nominations. Hearing no objections, nominations are closed. Mr. Stelly, congratulations, sir. You are the 2022
Yeah.
Just one comment. Finally, after 45 years, my wife stood up, standing ovation for me. So I think that in itself is pretty big. Okay, we will now open nominations for vice president.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Mr. Anthony Barty for Vice
Second.
President.
I have a nomination for Mr. Anthony Barty by Mr. Onderpont and a second by Mr. Landry.
Move we close nominations.
Second.
I have a motion to close nominations. Mr. Barty, you are now the vice president of Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. Just another moment to thank you guys for the opportunity. I do appreciate it. We're all going to work hard together. Thank you.
Mr. President, I guess this is the last time I'll get to sit right here for,
Yes, there is.
1C will be presentation of plaques to the immediate past president and past vice president.
Chris wants to say something.
Brian, would you come up here? And now, Mr. Barty will now present the plaque to Mr. Brame.
Fun.
Get a replica later.
That does look good. Nice attention to detail.
1D is to adopt a resolution appointing Ms. Kelly Fontenot as parish treasurer.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Guillory. Is there any comments? Ms. Kelly Fontenot, you're now the parish treasurer. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Item 2A, adopt a resolution approving an active sale agreement for the Alta Road Bridge Replacement Project.
Move on all bullets.
Second.
Let's see, Mr. Landry and Mr. Abshire, we're going to take those one at a time.
All right. Well, I will second both, and I'm sure he'll make the
2A
motion on
is
both.
for the Alta Bridge Replacement Project. 2B Adopt a resolution approving a sale and purchase of property agreement for the Alta Road Bridge Replacement Project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any objections? Any comments? Item 2B passes. Item 2C, adopt resolutions approving professional engineering contracts as
Move on
follows.
C.
Second.
That's number 1. Mr. Abshar?
Yes, sir.
And okay, I have a motion by Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Richard, C.H. Fenstermaker and Associates for the Old Spanish Trail at Truesdale Road Intersection Improvement Project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Abshar and a second by Mr. Richard. Are there any objections? Are there any discussions? Item 2C1 passes. Item 2, D.W. Jessen and Associates for the Gautier Road and Sidney Derwin Road Multi-Bridge Replacement Project. I need a motion.
Second.
Who made the motion? Mr. Bray made the motion and Mr. Smith second. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Seeing none, item 2D carries. Item 3, Duhan and Pleasant Consulting Engineers for the Carlos Drive Bridge Replacement Project.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Barris. Barris? Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 3 carries. Item 4, Lawson Engineers for the Begless Parkway at Patton Street Intersection
move.
Improvement
4.
Project.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Ondrapont and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, item 4 passes.
Move on item 5.
Item 5, Lonsall Engineers for the Ravier Road and West Parish Road Multi-Bridge Replacement Project.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Onderpont and a second by Mr. Abshar. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 5 carries. Item 3A, approve the minutes of the regular
Move.
meetings of the police jury dated
Second.
November 18th, 2021 and December 2nd, 2021. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Brame. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, item 3A carries. Item 3B, adopt a resolution approving issuance, sale, and delivery by the Calcasieu Parish Public Trust Authority of not to exceed $30 million of its multifamily housing revenue bonds, La Joliette LP Project Phase 2. I have a motion by
So moved.
Mr. Abshar,
Second.
second by Mr. Burley. Is there any objection? Any discussion? Hearing none, 3B carries. Item 4A, approve all applications for liquor and beer permits.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 4 carries.
Move on 5A.
I'm sorry, I should have said staff recommended that 1 new application and 2 renewal applications be approved, so sorry
Mr.
about that.
President,
Sir,
may I say something?
you sure can.
Not that my opinion matters, but I'm gonna tell you, the way that this thing has been changed, I don't like this at all. This is very confusing. There's no sense in having a number 4-1A or 4-1B. That number 2, that's a mess. I'm sorry.
Is anybody else confused?
I am.
It does not flow as it,
I've raised that
as
concern
it did
well.
before.
Okay, if.
This was
let's-
not like this before.
Okay, if you don't mind, let's make this a personal point of privilege, and then we can discuss it after the
Okay,
meetings.
that's fine.
If you don't mind.
I've said all I need to say. I think that maybe it'll get done.
I'm surprised.
We'll put that on, we're gonna get you to take care of that.
Oh, baby, right. 5A, approve all payment of all current invoices.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Underpunt and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5A carries.
Move on.
5B, advertise for bids for Alta Bridge Road Replacement Project. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any objection? Any discussion? Hearing none, 5B
Move on
carries.
5C.
Item 5C, advertise for requests for proposals for an electronic health record-keeping system. Have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Brame. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5C carries. 5D, adopt a resolution invoking a declaration of public emergency for any procurement related to the Mallard Junction Water Plant Repair Project.
So move. So move.
I have a motion by Mr. Guillory and a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, 5D passes. Item 5E,
Move on 5E.
adopt a resolution on bids for the Carnegie Library Hurricane Repairs Project. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Abshar. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5E carries. Adopt a resolution on bids for the Central Library Hurricane
5F.
Repairs Project.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5F carries.
Move on 5G.
Second.
5G is adopt a resolution on bids for the Moss Bluff Library Hurricane Repairs Project. I have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5G carries.
Move on 5H.
Second.
5H, adopt a resolution on bids for the Quincy Library Renovation and Hurricane Repairs Project. Have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by, I have a motion by Mr. Onderpont and a second by Mr. Burley. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, which was, 5H? Which one am I on? 5H. 5I, adopt a resolution on bids for the Maplewood Library Hurricane Repairs Project.
Go on 5.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Tremonti and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5I carries. Item 5J, adopt a resolution on bids for the DeQuincy Library Hurricane Repairs
Second.
Project. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Onderpont. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, 5J carries. 5K, adopt a resolution on bids for the Packing House Road Multi-Bridge Replacement Project.
Go on 5K.
I have a motion by Mr. Tremonti and a second by Mr. Abshar. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5K carries. 5L, adopt a resolution on bids
moved.
for the Starks Library Hurricane Repairs Project. Have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5L will carry. 5M, adopt a resolution on bids for the Hayes Library Hurricane Repairs Project.
Move on 5M.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5M carries. 5N, action on bids for one dump bed trailer.
Move on 5N.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5N passes.
Move on 5-0.
5O is adopt a resolution on bids for the Westlake Library Hurricane Repairs Project. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5O will carry. 5P, adopt a resolution on bids for the Python Street at Gill Street Parking Lot Expansion Project. I have a motion by Mr. Guillory and a second by Mr. Barris.
Question.
Mr. Guillory.
Just asking, because I know this is right, the parking lot right here, but I know we're gonna be doing a lot of work here, coming up at the courthouse and everything else. I was just wondering maybe if that one shouldn't be maybe done after everything, or,
Thank you, Mr. Gilroy. If you want more detail, Dean Kelly can come up, but the way we're doing this, a portion, you're correct, a portion of that parking lot we think is going to be needed for the lay-down work for the judicial complex building. This would be for the remainder of it. And I asked the same question because it's a good question, but we feel like it can be done, most of it can be done, and we can use that parking because we still need it. But you're right, it's only for a portion. And then we'll finish the rest later.
thank you, Mr. Bean. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brand?
Thank you, Mr. President. Since we're the last one on all these projects for hurricane, could I get Dean to come on up? I got a couple of questions before we go to board appointments, please, sir. So Dean, I was just curious, I've seen all these projects, and they're all hurricane related, and they're going out for bid to get done. Can you give me an idea when, and I know what you know what I'm gonna ask. Prairie Lake Park, the Harbor's Edge Pavilion, and the boat launch for Prairie Lake, Israel LaFleur, and all the repairs around there, are they getting close to going out for bid for repairs or anything like that?
Definitely getting closer. I don't have the exact date with me. I can follow up with you on that, but I have met with the architects a few times since the last time you and I talked.
Okay.
We've had to work out quite a few details, but all these projects are starting to roll out now.
Okay,
That one's
so
closer.
timeline, I'm just curious. I mean, I see people every day use that Israel LaFleur boat launch, and it's I don't even know how they launch a boat, but they're lined up launching. So we have spring coming up and summer coming up. We're 15 months post Laura. And I know you and I have had this discussion, but since we went through all these, I just wanted to know is that on the list?
It is, and I received the review set for Israel LaFleur right before New Year's. So it's under review now. Once all that is finally reviewed and it's ready to go, we'll put it out. So it's close.
Okay, Harbor's Edge Pavilion, is it in any condition to lease out, or is it off the market basically for venue?
Currently, it's off the market.
Okay, so same timeline? I mean, are we talking?
I don't have the review set for that yet.
Okay.
There's some.
The scope of work, is it major? Physically, the building looks fine.
The way the building was built to deal with some of the issues there, we've had to figure out how to repair that without taking the entire roof structure off, which would then expose the building and you'd lose more of the building. So it got pretty complex. But we have it pretty well figured out now, and they're trying to finalize those plans.
Okay, all right. I just hope it's like on the front burner. Yeah, I know all these are important as well. I'm not saying that they're not, but just, we're long time from Laura, and
Absolutely.
and that's a facility that gets reused. It's off the market for being used. It's not getting repaired. Same thing with the boat launch and Israel LaFleur.
Trying to
Can
push
stay
these
on top
projects
of
out as
it. I'd
fast as we can.
appreciate it. I know the community would as well. So thank you, Dean. I just wanted to get that while I had an opportunity.
Mr. Barris?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Brain, why are people driving past a perfectly good boat launch?
I can't.
Right there.
Can't answer
To go
that.
all the way around, man.
Can't
Come on,
answer.
man, we getting there.
Can't answer that. Don't know why people do what they do, but
Mr. Barris, you done?
they're doing it.
I'm done, sir.
Mr.
Thank
Smith?
you.
Okay, Dean, I know you and I spoke about Epps Library, but I kind of think the rest of the jurors would like to know exactly the process of what's going on with Epps Memorial Library on that rebuild upcoming.
Yeah, the repair project for Epps, there's an old Epps and there's a new Epps. What's known as the old Epps Library will be fully demolished. And the other structure, which we know as new Epps Library, will also be demolished and rebuilt. So it's taking a little bit longer to work through those details, especially when you look at the fact that you're gonna demo a building and then completely rebuild it on the same footprint. So it just takes a longer time period to get that project out.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Is there any other discussion? Item 5P carries. Item 6 is board appointments.
Move on 6A.
6A, Calcasieu Parish Public Library System. We have Dr. Dale Beglish Shantz and Mr. Paul Shantz and Mr. Paul Arnold. And I have a motion by Mr. Onderpunt and a second by Mr. Burley. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, 6A carries. 6B, Community Center and Playground District 1 of Ward 6.
Move to appoint Mr. Jake Rainwater.
Second.
Appointment by Mr. Barris for Mr. Jake Rainwater. I have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Brame. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 6B carries. 6C, Creole Nature Trail Scenic Byway District.
Guillory.
I have a motion by Mr. Tremonti to reappoint Mr. Paul Guillory, and I have a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 6C carries. 6D,
Move on 6D.
Ward
Second.
2, Fire Protection District Number 1, Mr. Roland Bertrand, Mr. Kenneth Derwin for reappoint. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any objection? Any discussion? Hearing none, 6D carries.
Move on 6E to defer.
I'm not using my computer tonight, I will next time. Item 6E, Ward 6, Fire Protection District Number 1. I have a motion by Mr. Onderpunt and a second by Mr. Burley to defer for 30 days on both appointments. Do I need to have a discussion about that? No. 6F, Ward 8, Iowa Fire Protection District Number 1.
Move on
Move
6F.
To reappoint Mr. Kenneth Wayne Landry, Mr. Eric B. Johnson Sr. I have a motion by Mr. Tremonti and a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 6F carries. 6G, Waterworks District Number 10
Move
of
to
Ward
reappoint
7.
Mr. Danny Benoit.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris to reappoint Mr. Danny Benoit and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 6G carries. 6H, Chenier Plain Coastal Restoration and Protection Authority.
So move. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barty for, is this just a submittal for now? To submit the following names: Miss Kara Bonsall, Miss Rika Kanik, and Miss Sarah Judson. And I have a motion by Mr. Barty and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 6H carries. Item 7 is board advise. I don't have to read that. And item 8 is also an advised item. Advise that at its regular meeting on February 7th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m., the police jury intends to discuss and recommend that a process, verbal, and resolution be adopted promulgating the results of the election held on December 11th, 2021. For the purpose of operating, maintaining, and improving the Burton Coliseum, and for funding other agricultural and community services.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Gilroy.
We did.
Talk about what?
About
Okay.
the agenda.
Oh, well,
Can we,
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Pre,
Go take
y'all
Personal
mind
privilege?
if, I would kindly ask, we can talk offline and be glad to follow up with any concerns y'all have.
Is that what you got? Is
Is that
that
okay?
fair?
That's fine.
We're gonna take care of it.
We'll get with each of you and make sure we have any concerns and we can address those.
We're adjourned.